Well, we are honored now to be joined here at Soccerwise by the new head coach of the Canadian women's national team officially, and someone we know very well from her days in NWSL and, of course, with England as a player. Casey Stoney officially announced. Casey, thanks for taking the time to join us.
No, thank you for having me on.
So let's start at the beginning. Why Canada? Why this project? And maybe why from club to international for you as your next job?
Yeah, I think obviously I was having some time out after Wave, and I was contacted by Canada about the role and listened, understood, kind of went away, did my own research. And it was quite an extensive process in terms of getting the job. So lots of conversations, an extensive interview. And the more I got to know Kevin Blue, the CEO, in terms of his leadership, his values, the more I was really interested in the role, because I wanted to be with an organisation that had good values, good principles, and I felt like he was very aligned to the way I think and the way I do things. The more I got an understanding of the player pool, the player group. Also, I'd watched them very closely over the last 3 years because Kalen was playing. So, you know, when Kalen plays, we watch. And I'd followed their journey, and I think what they've done over the last year has been incredible in terms of not being beaten in open play, and then what they did at the Olympics in really difficult circumstances. And the more I got to know the culture of the people of Canada, it just became something I really was keen to be part of, and I felt like I could, you know, bring leadership to this group and hopefully take the team to the next level.
Let's talk about the player pool, because leadership and culture stuff, it's a lot. It's very important, but fans love players. Like, we love the game and we love the talent on the field. What excites you most about this Canadian national team player pool?
I think the blend of like the experienced players that have got so many caps, it's unreal. You know, you think about Jessie Fleming and her age and how many caps she's got. And I think then the pathway, you know, I've looked at some of the 20s to 17s, and that's really exciting. There's some real young talent coming through, and being able to kind of blend them in with the experience. I think there's some pace in the team. There's some players with a little bit more freedom that can create. There's some fantastic young players at the back as well. You know, you look at Jade Rose, and she came in and worked with us in Wave last summer, and I was super excited about her. So, and also the opportunity to work with Kaylin again was a big plus. You know, her character and what she's about, and I think she's one of the best in the world if she's put in the right circumstances. So I think there's some real excitement about how we can play the way we want to play and what we can do with this team.
I've heard that you had a call with the players on the weekend as the news came out. I assume Kaylin was pretty loud on that call. She does not seem like one who's pretty quiet.
To be fair, she didn't say much. It was more like, obviously, because it leaked before we wanted it to. So I wanted to get on with the players as soon as possible and talk to them and just introduce myself, introduce like what I was going to be doing, set the standard from the off of what we're working towards. And yeah, it's usually on a Zoom call. It was like tumbleweed, but I got some really, you know, good messages after from the players. So I'm just excited to get to meet them in person, get out, watch them in their games before we have our first camp in February, and then get to work.
Let's talk about your style a little, because it was distinct with San Diego and it was successful. You're making the jump now to international, so less contact with the players, different setups. What's your idea about your methodology of how long it takes and how much of that style with San Diego we expect to see come into the Canadian national team?
Well, I think with San Diego, it's very much the same with Manchester United. Like, you're building from nothing. You have nothing in place. Your players, you know, especially at San Diego, are coming from an expansion draft. So you haven't necessarily recruited all of them. And that's very similar to national team. But I'm working with world-class players, working with players that are at the very top of their game. So they'll be able to take messages on very quickly. They'll be able to understand tactical information. And the way we want to play progressive football. We want to create chances. We want to score goals. I think we showed that in year 1 and year 2 in San Diego. We were an expansion team, and we were, I think, within the top 2, top 3 goal scorers. So we want to do the same with Canada. I'll always fit the style to the players that I've got, and make sure that it's a style that we can be successful with. We want to entertain, because we're in an entertainment business, but we want to do that with the ball. You know, we want to be able to maintain possession, progress the ball into the right areas, and get our best players on the ball and score goals.
I think exciting news and words to hear for a lot of Canada fans trying to see the next progression of this program. When we talk about style, though, it has to be asked, the jackets. Canada national team feels like a good fit for you from a style on the sideline point of view.
Yeah, I won't change what I do on the sidelines. I think that's just me, and that's part of my identity as a head coach. So, yeah, maybe I need to invest in a red blazer now. So we'll see.
It's a good look. It's a good color. I think it will be exciting for a lot of people. Let's talk about what the last few months have been like for you, though. As you've looked back on San Diego and sort of processed what went down, what's your feelings about what that experience was and where you sit now?
Well, it took me a couple of months to be able to, if I'm honest. It was like a bit of a shock to me at first, and obviously impacted my family massively. So we had to kind of first priority sort our lives out because it was difficult for us. And then once I moved forward from that anger, if I'm honest, I was able to look back and learn and take the learnings from it and actually be really proud of what I achieved. Like, it's not easy to be an expansion team. We reached a semi-final of a playoff and finished third in our first season ever. You know, that's never been done before. We won the league in the second year. We won a cup. So I'm extremely proud of what we were able to put together as a program. I felt the culture that we built was strong, really strong, and the players really bought into it, and the staff that existed at the time were fantastic, supporting me and supporting the players. So I can look back now and say, like, we did a good job. We did a really good job, and it taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about the players, taught me a lot about the culture, and it'll only make me a better head coach moving forward.
When you do this process, let's say in 15 years, let's be really positive about Canada, what do you want to think back on? What do you want people to say? Like, what do you want the MO of your Canadian women's national team to be?
I want the fans to be proud. I want the fans to be really, really proud of the identity that we play, the culture that we create, the people that we are, and the impression that we make on world football, you know, and everybody's trying to win a World Cup. We're going to try and do the same. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to be able to do it, but you know, we're going to try, and people will see that we are really trying and that we're putting everything in to try and be successful and also impact the entire Canadian soccer landscape, because I think if you have success at the top level, it drips down, and if we can influence the pathway, that will have an impact up as well.
Speaking of that environment, that pathway, we spoke with Jesse Marsh last week, and he talked about his need to have an impact on the game just outside of the national team in Canada. How do you see your role in affecting just the sport and the women's landscape in the country outside of just coaching the team?
It's one of the reasons I took the job, because I am a day-to-day person. I need the day-to-day. So having an impact on the entire landscape is really important. It's about influencing the pathway in terms of the clubs, the coaching, also supporting female coaches and Canadian coaches, because one day this job should be held by a Canadian coach, and being able to support them, being able to support the NSL. You know, and I think Diana's done a fantastic job of getting that off the ground and being able to be visible there and support those clubs and be a really open space for people to come and be part of the journey that we're going on.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the NSL. It's obviously a huge level of excitement with a league coming, and you've talked about expansion and new projects. This is as big as it gets. How do you see your role there, and sort of what's your background already with the people involved with NSL?
I think I can use my experiences. I was part of the process when the WSL kicked off in England. You know, I saw that whole process start. So I can use my experiences. I can support the clubs. I can, you know, support the coaches where they want it and need it. I can be visible at games, which is really important. And, you know, I think it gives another platform for players to play. You know, I spoke in my media yesterday about, the day before, about young players sitting on benches. Like, there's no need for that. Like, this is a space where young players can come and compete and play. And also senior players, you've seen Desi Scott signing now. So, you know, it's going to be a league where people want to play, want to come. And also it gives Canadians an opportunity to be home and play at home if they want to.
One of the things that comes up a lot, I know, when I talk to fans of the Canadian national team is access to the national team, more games in Canada and more games spread out across Canada. Was that part of your conversation at all, or your plans?
It will be moving forward. That's something that, we'll be speaking about the games program. Obviously, we want to play and compete against the best teams because we're preparing to qualify for a World Cup and then preparing for a World Cup. So we want that, but we want to make sure that this game is spread across the country, that it's accessible to all, and make sure that that's a unique part of the women's game, is that, players can relate to fans and fans can relate to players. And I think we need to keep that.
And NWSL, over the last few years has had its ups and downs from a point of view of how it affects national teams. I think coming out of the 23 World Cup for U.S. fans, it was maybe seen as a negative, and maybe that shifted a lot. I'm curious, your view on the spine of this Canadian team is very NWSL heavy, of your players now as a national team coach playing in that league and how it prepares them for the biggest stages like the World Cup.
Well, I think when I first went to coach in the NWSL, one of the things I realised is it's probably the same pace as international football because it's so fast. It is so transitional, which I tried to change a little bit. But it does prepare you. If you're a defender and you're playing in the NWSL, you're going to get exposed to 1v1 defending in big spaces frequently, which is, massive for you when you're preparing for the international football. So I think it only aids the players. I think the coaching is improved in the NWSL as well. So tactically, players are getting better, and that will only help our players, in terms of the next year, 2 years.
Nice. What last one for you? Fans going to tune in for the first time the Pintar Cup in Spain. Your first opportunity to coach. We don't know who it's against yet. What are sort of the things you want fans to look for first? Like, what should be the expectations in just this first camp of, okay, this is Casey Stoney's team and sort of this is her fingerprints on this group?
Well, obviously, it will very much depend on who's available as well. We've got players coming out of a English season. We've got players probably 2.5, 3 weeks into pre-season in the NWSL, but I think you'll see a team that's progressive, a team that wants to play forward, that wants to get attacking players on the ball, that wants to create chances, whilst being defensively sound underneath. I think, defensive structure is there so you can attack. And we want to be a team that attacks more than they defend. So, yeah, obviously based on the players we have available, I think you'll start to see the style of play unfold. We haven't got a lot of time to prep. I'm not going to change too much too soon because that would be, naive of me to do that. But we're going to start to embed things slowly as we go, and we've got a year to do that.
I think I saw one fan on social say it's the best day of their life when you were announced 2 days ago. So a lot of excitement, a lot of energy. We appreciate you taking the time to come join us. Can't wait to continue watching from afar and hopefully have you on again to talk all about it.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Thank you.